we had a massive duel in an NFC South division rivalry game. And it really did go back and forth. It was a tale of two halves, realistically. I mean, Atlanta looked like they were going to run away with it for a little bit. New Orleans comes back to win it. Obviously, at the end of the day, it ends up being a 1-point game where New Orleans wins 27-26. But we all thought Atlanta was going to be a wash. I thought that this game was easily going to be a 2-3 score difference in favor of New Orleans, in my opinion. So, Kyle, what do you make of Atlanta fighting really hard against the Saints?
I'll say this about the Falcons. Even though that they lost this game to the Saints by 1 point, I was actually quite surprised in how viable they played against the Saints through 3 quarters. It was basically the fourth quarter where everything went to hell in a handbasket for Atlanta. And really up until that point, I was actually of the mindset that Atlanta was going to win that game. Simply just because when I looked at the offensive side, just specifically with the Falcons here, I didn't think that Marcus Mariota played that bad of a game. Did he light up the scoreboard like Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs against the Cardinals? No. But I thought Marcus was pretty solid in his first start with the Falcons. You know, with 20 of 33, threw for 215 yards. He didn't throw any interceptions, so didn't throw any touchdowns either. But he didn't necessarily do anything to really kind of give the game away as far as turning the ball over like Joe Burrow did against the Steelers. And then you tie that into the fact that I thought Cordero Patterson was solid in the ground game. Had 22 carries, had 120 yards on the ground, had 1 touchdown to go along with that. I thought, by and large, Atlanta's offense was actually able to move the ball pretty effectively up and down the field through 3 quarters. It was just everything kind of went sideways in the fourth quarter when the Saints went on a massive run. They scored 17 points in the fourth quarter and ended up squeaking out a win on the road by 1 point. When it comes to the NFC South this year, I'm still of the mindset that Atlanta's going to probably be third or fourth fiddle in this division, simply just because I think the Buccaneers are head and shoulders above them. I think the Saints, despite the fact that they only beat Atlanta by 1 point in this game, I still think that New Orleans is a better team than them. And then really when it comes to third and fourth place, this is where I think Atlanta and Carolina are going to kind of duke it out throughout the season, just because I just don't think they can compete consistently with better teams like the Saints and the Bucs can. And Atlanta's going to find themselves in that unfortunate situation here. I may have to reassess on how bad I thought that they were going to be, simply just because they played a pretty solid game against New Orleans. So maybe they won't be as bad as what I originally anticipated. But all things considered, I still think that Atlanta is a mediocre team at best. If they overachieve, they could maybe be an average team at best. But I have to give them credit for today. Even though that it came in a losing effort, they fought hard. They showed some grit. It's just they have to play better in the fourth quarter. You can't give up 17 points at home to the Saints when throughout most of the game at that point, Atlanta looked like the team to beat in week 1. It's just, they gotta tighten up on the defensive side. That's really been the one key area where that team has really struggled the last couple of years. So, obviously I know they lost Matt Ryan, and you're replacing him with Marcus Mariota. I think that's a step down as far as I'm concerned. But just the way that they played today, they did definitely earn my respect. They gave New Orleans all that they could handle in week 1. And unfortunately for Atlanta, they fell a little bit short. But overall, I was actually pretty impressed by what Atlanta did, giving New Orleans all that they could handle in that Sunday matchup.
The reason I worded it is because, like I had iterated in my question, I truly believe that Atlanta was going to be probably the epitome of a trash can this year. I had no faith in them. Matt Ryan is obviously the greatest Falcon of all time in terms of, what he was able to do for that franchise over the course of the last, 14 years. Then you go and you go. Then you go and bring in Marcus Mariota, who has been, for the most part, a backup over the last 3 or 4 seasons, other than his tenure in Tennessee. And I said, well, that was a desperation signing because you didn't get Deshaun Watson. You weren't able to attract any major free agents. And then you go and you draft Drake London, the wide receiver, and you're like, okay, somebody to pair with Kyle Pitts, but will Cordell Patterson be the running back of the future? I don't know. Then you go and you put up 26 and you lose by 1. They ran the ball so effectively. They had over 200 yards rushing as a team. That is very, very difficult to do against a good New Orleans defense. Marcus Mariota didn't lose you the game. And Kyle, I actually looked up the box score. He did have that fumble. I knew that he fumbled twice, but I thought he recovered both. He lost one of them. So, I mean, again, not a timely one, but at the end of the day, a turnover still a turnover at the quarterback position. But I'm looking at it and I'm saying he didn't lose them the game. The Falcons defense is probably going to be that biggest issue, that biggest question mark, because if this offense can continue to move the way that they did, if Drake London continues to develop, Kyle Pitts continues to do what he needs to do, Cordero Patterson runs the ball as well as he did, and Marcus Mariota continues to run an efficient RPO, this team may not make noise, but they can be competitive and play spoiler. I genuinely had no faith that they would be able to move the football as effectively as they did today. So if this is any indication of what they're going to put out there for the rest of the season, they're not a rollover team like I thought they would be. Not that they're going to go out there and win 6-7 games, but if they can tire out an offense, if they can make it competitive, if they can surprise a couple of teams and have some sneak away division victories, I think the Falcons earned a lot of respect today. And that's, again, just my opinion, and that's kind of the take I wanted to go with today. But again, credit is due where it needs to be. New Orleans also ran the ball effectively today, too, for over 150 yards. Obviously, Jameis did what he needed to do, throwing 2 touchdowns. But hey, let's circle the big name here that no one's talking about. Jarvis Landry was a late signing for New Orleans. Everybody thought because he wanted the money that he did, that he was going to be one of those overpaid, washed receivers out of his prime. Hey, that's the hometown hero right there. Went to LSU from Louisiana, best friends with Odell. Turns out him and Jameis have a pretty solid connection. He had over 100 yards receiving today. And Kyle and I actually laughed today when we saw that Michael Thomas played football and scored 2 touchdowns. So the Saints offense was back to form. The Saints defense was a little lackluster, obviously, like I had just stated, because they allowed Atlanta to go out there and put up 26 on them. But overall, that was a very good game. That was a better game than I thought it would have been. I mean, for God's sakes, that was better than the Colts and the Texans game by a mile, in my opinion, but neither here nor there. But yeah, the NFC South looks pretty solid this year, man. I'm not going to lie, because Carolina fought back too against the Browns, and that was a good game, and we all know how that could have went. So overall, I love the game. I thought it went well, and kudos to the Falcons, man. They earned my respect today for sure.